Sometimes people ask me if herbs really work, and my answer to them is if you've ever eaten beans or Brussels sprouts, you'll know that plants certainly have an effect on your body. And herbs do work because they've got a broad amount of phytochemicals in them which do different things. So some plants, for instance, have phytoestrogens, which are very like the hormones in our own bodies. Some produce anti-inflammatory compounds which help with any inflammation in our bodies. And they do that because they want to protect themselves. You know, plants don't like viruses, bacteria, germs, microbes, irregular cell division any more than we do. And they've had 600 million years to develop this amazing phytochemistry. We've just been around for about 100,000 years. If people say that they've tried a herbal medicine and it didn't work, quite often it's because they've taken it in too low a dose. Because a lot of people are worried about the dangers of herbs interacting with other drugs and things. So a lot of the commercially available things are at very low doses. But if a herb hasn't worked, it's probably because the strength just isn't enough. At the right strength, a herbal medicine can work as well as any drug. But you have to, at that stage, be really taking it under the advice of a practitioner. But most of us can tweak our health and support our health and manage our health from day to day, even just with herbal teas. Never underestimate a herbal tea. If you're on medication, you ought to always be quite aware of the herbs that you're taking, because some can compete with pathways in the body with drugs. And even a lot of foodstuffs can affect drugs as well. So if you're taking a blood thinner, like warfarin for instance, you need to be careful of the amount of garlic that you take, because garlic also thins the blood. Conversely, a lot of vegetables have a lot of vitamin K in, which clots the blood. We evolved to eat plants, and our whole body chemistry is made up from the fact that we evolved eating plants. So we do need to be aware of the effects that they have on our body. But used in the right way, they have a very powerful, very good effect for us. One of the ways people most use herbs at home is if they're getting colds or a flu. And there's lots of home remedies that you can use. Elderberry is really good if you've picked elderberries to make syrups, because that helps the body to release cytokines, which stimulates the whole immune system, very like the herb echinacea. One of the classics is to actually use garlic. An old cure that grannies would say is to crush 2 cloves of garlic, add a little hot water with honey, which is antimicrobial, and perhaps a little bit of thyme or sage if you've got a fever. Sage brings down temperatures, and drink it down. You may not smell very nice to your neighbours, but garlic is a really powerful antiviral and antibiotic. If you find that you don't like garlic breath, you can always chew parsley, because that alleviates the smell of garlic, which is why parsley was always added as a condiment and a decorative item on dishes, because chewing parsley at the end of the meal negates your garlic breath. If you want to make your own herbal medicines at home, there are some very simple ways of doing it. The most simplest, of course, is a herbal tea. And any leaf or flower you can pour boiling water over, just like you're making a cup of tea. Leave it for 5 minutes, then strain it and drink it. If you're using a bark or a root, you actually have to boil them a little longer. A really good home remedy is ginger tea, which helps with any sort of digestive upset. And you literally just grate the ginger, cover it with a little water, and boil it for 5 to 10 minutes, just simmer it. Add honey and maybe a bit of lemon, and that's a really good home medicine. If you want things that are really strong, you have to tincture them in alcohol. One of the first drugs that was synthesized at the end of the 1800s was aspirin. That was one of the first pharmaceutical drugs that became available. And at the time, the Bayer scientists had actually been doing tests on a plant called meadowsweet, which you see in bloom all along our hedgerows in Britain. And that contains a compound called salicylic acid. And the old name of meadowsweet is spirea, and that's where the name aspirin, aspirea, comes from. So it was a really good anti-inflammatory. Salicylic acid is also found in willow. But unlike the really concentrated version in aspirin, it actually doesn't upset your stomach. So in herbal medicine it's used to treat stomach ulcers and things like that as well. When you take a whole herb, it's often a lot better than a pharmaceutical drug because it doesn't have the side effects. And that's because herbs are complex and they have compounds in them that work, but also compounds in them that help to protect your body too.